wanna do a podcast? We make a darn good team. It always goes without a hitch. Let's head to Twitch and go start up the stream. Do you wanna do a podcast? It's the Nerd Glasses Podcast. Let's start now. Hi everyone and welcome to the Nerd Glasses Podcast.
Come? All right, I'll do my own bits myself.
Oh wait, no silence.
We're doing it. Get off the road.
Hey Dave,
Hey, Boater.
where does a Gungan keep his jam?
In those flaps that form, and that's why the older ones are really big, because they have all the jam there.
Jar Jars?
Should have known.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Nerd Glasses Podcast. I'm Boater,
I'm Dave, man.
and that was my awful reenactment of awful dancing from Jar Jar, which made a return at the Man Show this weekend. Make sure you go back and watch the VOD for that. Hi everybody! Welcome to the Nerd Glasses Podcast for Tuesday, June 6th. Hello Vladdy, hope you're doing well. Sorry, actually, hold on. You started with hello there, so General Kenobi. All right. If we're starting with Star Wars, Dave, I got to continue with Star Wars.
Exactly. Can't let the Star Wars go. Can't let it die, because otherwise it winds back up in George Lucas's hands. Bam!
Anyway, hey, let's start off with a Twitch ban. I couldn't find an interesting one, frankly. After a while, they kind of get like, oh, yes, one of those. Here, take a card. Please mark the bubble for whatever constantly stupid thing you did. This one wasn't too bad. This one's a little different. It got a 1-day ban for accidental nudity on stream. Apparently, the person in question is Rakiz, or Rakiz, I'm not sure, Rakyz. He figures that this is probably while he was watching a hot tub stream on stream, and then the stream there was accidental nudity, so of course it was rebroadcast, and about a week later someone noticed, and he got a 1-day ban. That's the entire story. Why are you just restreaming some random other's stream? Except to be like, then I get to call mine a hot tub stream and get those sweet hot tub streaming dollars.
I mean, if that's how you want to tailor your content, and you know that's the audience you want to tailor it to, there you go.
Also, it's basically thievery of someone else's stream. Make your own content, people.
Get your own hot tub there, pal.
Yeah. Or at least do what I've seen a bunch of people doing, including yourself, I think, which is get a stock photo of a hot tub and green screen yourself into it.
I had 5 for St. Jude's Play Live because we really, 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 really wanted to bother Rob McElhenney.
You had a spa day. It was great.
So much fun. But of course, as always, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Congratulations.
That was definitely a slap on the wrist. I feel like, number one, people have gotten much worse bans for things not as bad as accidental nudity. It was his first ban ever, so that probably contributes to some of the leniency. But it's also like, come on, stop stealing other people's content. Stop rebroadcasting other people's stuff. Do your own thing. Hopefully that's the lesson you'll take away from this, but probably not. I think he just said, I won't watch hot tub streams on stream. So you'll just watch other streams. Okay. Okay, now that that's out of the way, we've started off with, surely, Dave, we're not going to run into anything as stupid as that. We've got nothing but paragons of human virtue going forward tonight.
Oh, of course, because that's what you come to expect here on the Nerd Glasses. Speaking of paragons of value, this week coming out in gaming.
6 out of 10 segue.
I have looked at 2 games in particular, partially because they caught my attention, and partially because one of them, in 2 days, the Ninja Gaiden Master Collection. It is going to be coming out for the PlayStation 4, the Switch, Steam, and Xbox One. And it is going to feature Ninja Gaiden Sigma, Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2, Ninja Gaiden 3, Razor's Edge. And if you're a fan of the Ninja Gaiden games, this is going to be for you, and it's a place to finally get those games in one place with all the fixes and the bundles and everything together.
Nice.
And if you're a fan of that style of game, it's for you. If you don't like games that looked at Dark Souls and said, well, predated Dark Souls, but still kind of said, well, the player should be punished for playing video games, but then rewarded for getting through the punishments, because that's pretty much the Ninja Gaiden moniker.
Yeah. It's interesting when they're like, it's a bundle of games getting re-released, and we've been seeing a lot of that. I wonder how much of that is just due to the development environment of the last year. Certainly the big titles have been getting pushed back as there's been difficulties in having people in the office or scheduling whatever. And I wonder when it's like, all right, cool, we own all the code for this. You 3 people get us a release together.
Yeah.
Which some of them might be that. Some of them, like, there's been remasters and stuff, and I'm not saying that that's the case with a lot of them. But
That
some of
was
these that are like
moist!
re-releases on other consoles or whatever, it's possible that that's been why.
It's been interesting, and I actually do hope that these bringing back of games that, like, of these games, giving an audience that hasn't necessarily had a chance to play them a new and easier way of making it accessible. Plug for, but anyway, if you want to play retro games, you should definitely stop in here at the Wilton Mall to get your first shot at these retro games and consoles, controllers, and things like that here at Insane Games in the Wilton Mall, but that is neither here nor there.
Well, it is here.
That's true.
Well, I guess it is there.
The other one I'm very excited for is the 16th installment in the long-standing, now Academy Award adjacent Ratchet and Clank franchise. If you watching out there saw the movie, let me know. I didn't. I missed it, and would be very curious as to how it went. Hey, Anticlaus Prime, thank you so much for the raid of 10 a party of 10. Welcome, folks, to the Nerd Glasses podcast here live on Insane Games TV. My co-host Boder and myself every week discuss gaming news, curiosities, and other such funnities. Stick with us and hang out. And how was the stream, Auntie? We're just talking about the game release that's coming out this Friday, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. At one of the PlayStation chats, I got to see this game announced and a lot of the gameplay of it. It's going to be a furthering of the story. Ratchet and Clank are split apart due to some temporal time chicanery and shenanigans. And of course, so the commentary and stuff like that, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I cannot say that Ratchet and Clank, it's a game franchise that has stood the test of time, and they continue to innovate in their own ways, and for better or for worse. Rift Apart looks like a lot of fun. It's one of those film franchises of, we've done so much in the present, let's play with the hypothetical of other dimensions and things like that, where it's characters you've seen before, but they're just a little bit more silver because this one's more evil or less evil.
Ooh.
And things like that. And they're going to be introducing a new Lombax, which is the race of Ratchet, to the franchise, which will be very interesting. The character named and of course it disappeared from my view, Rivet. Looking greatly forward to seeing it. Welcome, Tayaman, to chat. Hope everything's well. So yeah, I know those are the games that I picked up. But Boater, you had a game that you were interested in that's
I
coming out in the next 7 days.
I noticed two games. Tomorrow is the release of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which is a re-release of Final Fantasy VII Remake for the PS5.
Mhm.
Has a little bit of extra mission thrown in, fully up-res graphics, higher frame rate, stuff like that. Which it's like a step above just, oh yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake is now out on the PS5. They did put some more into it, so that's kind of cool. Hopefully they aren't spending too much time on that and get along to the next part of Final Fantasy VII to be released. But the other one that I noticed actually comes out today, and it's called Alba. There is a subtitle, but I don't know it off the top of my head. And it is a wilderness appreciation game, we'll say. It has some elements of like Firewatch, where you're wandering around wilderness. It has some elements of Pokemon Snap because there's photography involved. More or less, you go around, you take pictures of wildlife, you clean up litter. Like, oh no, this poor turtle has its head caught in one of the six-pack plastic rings. Let me save it.
Oh God, I'm so happy you didn't mention turtles and straws. Oh God.
Oh, oh, ah, um, this wildlife has been hurt by humans. Let me save it, and let me collect petitions as kind of an overarching plot. As you continue to do good, you get more signatures on your petition to keep a Captain Planet villain company from opening on this little Spanish island that you spend the entire game on. So the game was originally out on Windows back in December, but it is coming out for Switch, Xbox, I think Xbox One and Xbox Series, as well as PS4 and PS5. Not positive, but Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, at least one release per each. Today, actually, it is out. Today? No, the 9th. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. So that's what I noticed. That is Alba. I think it's called Alba: A Wilderness Story is the full title.
Nice.
Re-release for the re-release, no cash grab at all. I mean, Remake wasn't exactly a re-release. It was strip it down to its skeleton and rebuild a whole new game out of it. But then Integrate is sort of a re-release of that. So you're not in. You're less than half wrong. It's midnight here, so it's out already. Boom! Get it. And again, it's also on Windows. It has been for a while. On Steam, at least, we noticed that each copy that you download, each copy that is sold on Steam pays for a tree to be planted. I don't know if that's going to be the case for other systems that Alba can be purchased on. So, between the two of us, that's what we noticed coming out this week.
Video games are at an all-time high in premium software, and yet hardware nowhere to be found. People scrambling online like it's a Pokemon card release. This particular
I was
issue
in Target the other day.
was
Empty wall.
was live streamed by a streamer, Preston A. Lewis, showing the gathering of folks. Where then during the video, they were screaming at the folks in the line, "Hey, one card per household!" And someone shouted, "Is there going to be enough for all of us?" And there is a very labored pause where a very sheepish "no" is then set out, and then everybody who had gathered in that line. Outside of the quote Micro Center, which was the computer store in Dallas,
Yep.
then stampeded into the store
Have you not
to
heard of
grab
Micro
the
Center?
products. What?
Micro Center, it's a decent. I mean, it's not so much around here, but it's a decently large electronics chain.
Had never heard of it previous to saying it in that moment, but
Yeah. Basically, I don't think he specified graphics cards, but yeah, it was a graphics card restock, and between chip shortage and crypto miners, that shit's worth its weight in gold.
Imagine semiconductors in 2021. Oh God, yeah, it'll be a while. What I've been saying to customers in the store, especially these days, is as you'll notice things are starting to lift, restrictions are getting moved, and things like that. And what this also means is, if you'll notice, other countries being, you're not necessarily in the U.S. of A., but I won't give away where your location is. But other viewers, restrictions are getting lifted. Things are able to travel easier, including freight and things like that. And so I've been telling people is by the end of the summer, things that aren't affected by these shortages are going to be less scarce and they're going to be dropped less as a periodic. Here's 500 of them. That's all we have, and things like that. And as these chip shortages resolve themselves and things like that, because I'm going to look at you and tell you on this stream, and I don't care if this doesn't age well, those people that are buying up all those chips for crypto currency mining, they're going to get real bored in about 3 months when their Scrooge McDuckian dreams of rolling in ghost currency and Dogecoin doth not make the nest egg they wanted, and those parts are going to get kicked out onto the internet left, right, and center. Of course, on Facebook Marketplace, the only legitimate place to sell anything anymore.
I think crypto is going to be here for quite a long time.
Oh,
and it
not
is going
saying
to continue being-
cryptocurrency's going away, but those skeeve heads that are buying up all this crap and have no idea what it is and are flocking to these electronic stores and buying up all this stuff. Your stimmy checks are over, pal, and enjoy.
Ethereum, I think, is looking at moving away from proof of work, which is something that the short version, as far as we're concerned, is that it uses a lot of power, and it's what graphics cards are generally used for. So Ethereum, I think, is looking at getting away from proof of work and going to proof of stake, which may ease up the crypto demand for graphics cards. And also, NVIDIA is introducing firmware to at least some of their cards so that it is going to be still just as useful for graphics processing, but it is going to be severely nerfed for crypto mining. So hopefully that's something that can be rolled out across whole lines of cards, like current whatever. If you're still producing previous generation cards, then sure, maybe they can do that. But like current lines should be, get them in the hands of gamers. 'Cause people like I'm still rocking a GTX 1070 from 6 years ago, and it mostly works fine. But I tried to stream Maneater at the end of Brunch with Boater this past weekend, and it couldn't do it. It hung up real bad sometimes. They tried that with the 3060, but it was hacked quickly, of course. Of course. I think specifically the 3060 is what we were talking about with that rush too. But yeah, I'd be happy with a 20-something series because again, like I said, I'm on a 1070, and of course this, the graphics chip shortage and the chip shortage in general is what's affecting consoles as well. Not to mention vehicles. Ford is just making F-150s without putting the chips in, so there's thousands of F-150s around the Detroit area that can't be sold because they don't have chips in them. Meanwhile, one of the biggest volume dealers in the Detroit area has 30 cars on the lot instead of the 1,000 they normally have. So there's a lot of industries that are looking for semiconductors. It is going to be a long time before stuff gets back to normal there.
You gotta love when people are left to their own devices for, say, the amount of a shutdown, and they look around and they go,
Screw everyone else.
I'm going to buy 400 of those and then keep them in my attic.
Yeah. The quote of I forget the exact thing. It was something on Twitter, so it wasn't some big sage, big brain moment, but it was along the lines of what did you learn this past year? Oh, that there's the people that see that people need help. Let me do what I can to help others, and everyone needs help. I'm gonna help myself.
You know what else made a very caveman-like grunt? That would be everyone who still has a PlayStation 3 that is both powered and connected to the internet. It recently let out quite the It wasn't sure why it let out that grunt because it's been so long since last, but the PlayStation 3 just recently got an update, and the last one was released back in November 2006.
Oh, hold up. No, that's the 60th one since it came out in November 2006.
Very nice.
reading comprehension. Um, but yeah, it has been a while. I actually turned on my PS3, which is basically our YouTube machine in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube and Netflix. I turned it on and it was like, I need an update. And my response was somewhere between, huh? And yeah, the was like, huh? So yeah, let it do its thing. They're still supporting it with software. It's still running. Not all apps support it. We can't watch Amazon Prime or Twitch, but we can, or Disney Plus, but it's still working with YouTube and Netflix, so it's still working.
Always good when Sony's able to stick a landing on something that recently caused a lot of controversy for them. When they announced originally that they were going to be shutting the Vita and PlayStation 3 stores down,
Mm-hmm.
and instead have now turned about faced on it and said that, hey, we're looking forward to providing these services and allowing you to download games indefinitely for the foreseeable future. So good on you, the internet, for once again making your voices heard and in a positive way for once.
Did that update, like, was there anything special about like what the update did, or was it just, oh no, it's still
It
like
appeared
security
to
updates?
just be a lot of compatibility
Okay.
to ensure that software and hardware don't disconnect on things. And I'm just betting that it's just quality of life things
Yeah.
after so many
Security
years of
patches.
things just sitting, making sure that people don't.
Now they're slowly removing single games very silently.
Mm,
I mean, that doesn't surprise me too much either. Although some of that happens because of like licensing deals. When the licensing, like, they didn't expect it to still have to keep it online, 10 years after it came out, and their licensing was for 8 years or whatever for the music, so they can't sell it anymore.
yeah.
I think we're going to start seeing that because that generation, PS3 and 360, they were the first ones that really were that all in with an online marketplace. And so those are the ones that we're really going to start seeing the effects of, well, the licensing ran out, so they can't sell that game anymore, so it has to come down. Um, which is why when I get an Xbox Series X, it's going to be a Series X with a disc drive. And when we get a PS5, it's going to be one with a disc drive. And AAA games that we get are mostly going to be stuff on disc because I don't want to be caught at the whims for whatever reason, whether it's licensing or getting cheap like EA's been doing with the Need for Speed games. We mentioned that last week. Disc.
Exactly.
I would eject the disc out of here to hold it up as a thing, but it's in there. I want Sean Layden back. Who is?
It's a good question.
Andy Klaus Prime says, I want Sean Layden back. Never thought I would say that. Both of us are unfamiliar.
Ah, yes. One of the previous presidents and CEOs of Sony Interactive Entertainment. I remember that face. I remember that expression very much. So, in seeing him react to the things people were saying, his 5-year tenure. Oh God, that's good.
Okay.
Previous CEO of
Yeah.
Sony Gaming.
Sony Entertainment Interactive, or yeah, whatever. Anyway.
Another company that has recently caught my attention, at least from and a lot of Twitters, was Magic: The Gathering Online, or Magic Online, as it is known to a lot of players.
Yep.
It is different from Magic Arena, which you will see folks, friends of mine like Vladdy and Geek for All playing, whereas Magic Online is quite literally no frills, the cards, the table, and that's it.
Nice.
No extra animations, things like that. And it's been running and it's able to be customizable, things like that. And so there's a streamer called Yama Killer, and they stream playing Magic Online, but they also stream trying to help with fixes on Magic Online and things like that. And they have a bug reporter system where you can be rewarded with financial compensation for finding bugs and things of that nature.
Okay.
This all came to a head because recently he was sent correspondence from Magic Online last week stating that he has been banned from the Magic Online reimbursement system, stating using very interesting verbiage and very interesting accusational style words, which is the event reimbursement system exists to assist users when encountering an unexpected bug or error, but should not be used as a crutch if you are constantly unable to operate the program effectively. We've determined that you reported requests for known issues is outside the spirit of the policy in a way we consider abusive. Due to this, you are no longer eligible for event reimbursement, and any events you participate in are at your own risk. So finding bugs in events and things like that. Uh, Whereas when I went to Magic the Gathering events in person, you would get handed your deck of cards, you would shuffle it, you would deal, you would play, and that would be that. Whereas online, you would pay an entrance fee, you would be given the same amount of cards, albeit digitally, that you would get, but bugs and systems like that would happen where sometimes you would get a pack that didn't match the set, cards that just wouldn't function as they were supposed to, or things like that, or you wouldn't get the right amount of cards, things like that. All sorts of issues that happen online. Random number generators and things do sometimes put in a 2 when they're supposed to be a 1. It happens. But
And so the reimbursement system, is it something that's like, oh, you report that there was a bug during the event, so you get your entry fee reimbursed?
yes. Yes,
Okay.
that and or you can get reimbursed for the value of items that were no longer given to you because of errors or bugs and things
Okay.
like that. You have to be able to prove it, but if you're streaming, there's your video and audio right there.
So rather than like, oh, this unexpected thing happened, can I get reimbursed? He would be like, I'm losing. Let me exploit this well-known bug and then report a bug made me lose. Possibly.
So that is exactly what Twitter took to saying to him.
Okay.
You're reporting the same bug and over, reasonable response, ba. For you, other people seeing like, I feel like there's missing important information here. How did you report the known issue? And then Yamakiller responded by saying, quote, "It is pretty funny how everyone claims to know how I was abusing and not telling the full story around my reimbursement when 95% or more of my files / magic I play on or stream or play on YouTube videos where you can see exactly what I do all the time."
Right, which isn't a defense. It's a well look. Like,
I mean, it is a defense because I then did look back on a lot of
Okay.
these reporting and things like that, and it's where they may be known bugs, they were bugs that also occurred to him, and by and large on the buy print, if you're doing an event and things like that and people aren't behaving as they should or events aren't behaving as they should, that's the reason for a reimbursement thing. So in this case, Magic Online being a little bit defensive and very quick to, because I watched an ungodly amount of this guy's stuff
Okay.
through the weekend to see, and it was just errors and errors and errors popping up, and where they were well known, if you have that many known issues with it, maybe you fix it. Just a thought.
yeah,
Just a thought.
it basically, I guess, comes down to, yes, the bugs were happening a lot. Was he intentionally invoking them, even if he didn't say so to stream, or were they happening to him? You know, was he in good faith just blindsided by a bunch of bugs?
Mm.
I get the feeling that if he's the only one that's gotten this, then it's possible bad faith on his part. I'm not saying for sure, but it's possible that he was exploiting known bugs, which you see like speedrunners able to do in other games, just exploiting bugs and knowing how to do that.
Mhm.
He possibly could have been doing that. I'm not saying he did. I'm saying it's possible. But if a lot of people have been hit by that many bugs and they're just not as well known people, not people that are streamers that much, then that is 100% on Magic's end that they are in bad faith making it so that people can't claim reimbursement when their game is buggy as hell.
As with anything, I'll try to see if there's any other developments that occur from this. If Wizards of the Coast releases any sort of statement in regards to it, I have a feeling they won't, just because Wizards, more recently than not, have become very tone deaf and very non-responsive. Thank you very much for the follow, Strawberry Bread. Have become very non-responsive to their fans and their requests of things, be it in any facet of the lore, the games, the cards, things like that.
I feel like Wizards of the Coast has become one of those things where like it has a lot of great people working for it, but it's one of those where like the company doesn't care, but there's a lot of people at the company that do. But unfortunately, it's gotten to that point where there are systems in place that don't care necessarily about the player, about the end user, or about the people working on their games.
Yeah,
And starting to see that where like writers and artists and developers and such like that kind of
definitely.
if they cared more about the developers of Magic Online, it probably wouldn't be so buggy.
It's not necessarily that Magic the Gathering Online is very buggy, but it does go along with when they add entire new sets and the
Mhm.
cards themselves have mechanics that are similar to but behave differently than previous
Gotcha.
mechanics.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and just in
I
general,
partially recant.
um, a lot of these things, but it does happen, and it'll be interesting to see how Wizards of the Coast, if they respond to this, if they look into it, or if it is true that he was abusing the system, um, more so than is usual than the average amount of people. That if you figure out that a vending machine, if you put a quarter and it puts 50 cents in, people are going to keep that to themselves and use it.
Yeah,
But
it's like if
um,
they release some sort of stat that says, you know, he uh accounts for 0.5% of people that have applied for event reimbursement, but his reports total 20% of the reports that we've gotten, or something like that. If they release a number as far that says why they decided to do that to suspend them,
yeah,
that would be helpful. Wizards, you can save face on this, or it can kind of be in this limbo. So that is something that we'll kind of follow up on as more news comes in. Speaking of following up,
hmm
um, a few a couple months ago, I think we talked about CD Projekt Red having lost, well, not lost, but um, source code for Witcher 3, I think Cyberpunk, as well as a unreleased game
um,
were
yes.
leaked.
So it was Thronebreaker, the Witcher Tales spin-off, The
Okay.
Witcher 3, a ray traced version of Witcher 3, Cyberpunk 2077, as well as a lot of source code for their virtual card game Gwent.
Yes.
Sticking
Yeah.
along with the theme Magic the Gathering Online, now discussing Gwent. The Gwent source code resurfaced on an online underground auction site. Um, it was originally started, the auction price started at $1 million,
Hmm.
and they buy it now price at $7 million. Um, they no one involved with it, of course, because it's all underground and wildly illegal, wanted to necessarily confirm absolutely every detail on it.
Yeah.
But the data did resurface, and the spokesperson from CD Projekt Red reached out to different reporters and different medias and said that they are still actively investigating the incident. Because is it actually the source code, or is this just more look over here, make this a big thing, make it
Yeah.
more valuable, and
So
things
this
like that?
this was in the past week it was put up to auction,
It looks like
or was it like it was put up to auction a while ago and then the code resurfaced from whoever bought it, or it nobody did buy it, so
this is just confirmation from a couple of months ago,
okay.
that the auction did happen, and then the auction closed. Um, and folks are trying to figure out. Obviously, everyone wants to know who had it, who bought it, and how much did they buy it for.
Yeah.
Which details are very unclear of it. But it'll be very interesting to see where more of this data pops up, and what they exactly have. CD Projekt wasn't very clear on it, but just to know that someone now has source code for some of their game engines and things like that could be worrying for CD Projekt Red, especially noting the fact that Cyberpunk 2077 is still not back up on the Sony store and is just nowhere to be found yet, for PlayStation owners. Um, Although Gwent's doing really well, and folks could definitely do some interesting things with that, being that Gwent is a game that is played competitively and is a recognized esport of sorts. Does have events, does do paid tournaments and things like that, and people could do some damage online with some of this base code to be able to potentially cheat, potentially adjust the game's parameters, things like that. It'll be interesting to see where this pops up again, and even more interesting that CD Projekt Red did not want to necessarily go out of their way to give um, too much of the information out on it. But when you're trying to sniff it back out, you don't want to necessarily give your opponent the knowledge of what you are doing, and because that's what basically happens when you tell reporters things.
Yeah. So I'm gonna follow up on that a little bit. What you were looking at there was actually reported back in February about the
Mhm.
auction.
Yep.
So that was that, but okay, so what we're looking at more recently is not so much Gwent, but Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk source code being leaked.
Good. Well,
Um
good that it's coming to light. It's also interesting, so that shows that a couple months ago they sold the Gwent stuff, or at least the auction closed, whether anyone bidded on it. And then the information is now out there for folks.
the source code, a hacker group decided to use the data to promote the launch of its new website, which it wants to set up as a platform for leaks. Wow.
Hmm.
Um, with users donating a $10,000 donation to have access to the site and all the source codes that might be leaked on there.
And there is the way of, as we discussed last week.
That's how you make your money. That's your ROI. That's your return on investment right there. Is your
But then
10,000.
legally, it's a donation, not paying for. So they are not selling that
Yeah.
information along. They are merely accepting donations from the benevolent folks that want
Which
access to it.
happens to also be a paywall. Yes. um, I'm sure that wouldn't hold up in court at all. Um, it's interesting though to compare with last week's thing about the guy who was selling ROMs for $30 a pop for access.
Mhm.
Um, interestingly, and this is coming a quote coming from VG247. Interestingly, the note the hackers left alongside this announcement said that some of the other more sensitive data, such as company reports, NDAs, HR documents, and such, quote, are shared with the media but won't be publicly leaked. Which is like I guess to verify that, like, yes, it's us. Here's what we found. You can go ahead and verify that, and then spread our press release where rubes can come pay us 10 grand a pop.
Mm. Dan, I want 10 grand. I want to be able to look at and sift through coding and documents and all sorts of unimportant BS. Insane Games could become the new home for another CD Projekt Red game. Mm.
Dan, I want 10 grand. I'll spend $69 on getting into the um, uh,
The
Coalition for App Fairness, but I'm keeping the rest.
I wonder what are they up to.
Wait, yeah, speaking of this, like, hey, let's get distracted by Google for a second. What's the latest out of the Coalition for App Fairness? Are they reporting on how the trial's been going? Because we haven't heard anything at the moment about the Apple versus Epic trials. That stuff is, at this point, the arguments are done and the judges are figuring out what massive industry shaking ruling they want to hand down. Yeah, it looks like they're just announcing, hey, more people have joined the coalition. Hooray.
I also noticed they got rid of the date tags for when they post these stories, knowing that things could slow
Could go a long time without
at
anything
our
actually happening.
at our friends with the Coalition for App Fairness.
So only by visiting every week do you see that's still the same story, where someone that goes there at first is like, aha, an update, rather than seeing a date of February 2021 on it. Um, So, Dave, a big thing coming up this week.
Mhm.
I think we can spend the tail end of the show talking about this. Um, E3 is coming up. E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, has ebbed and flowed as far as how important it has been to the gaming industry. It is kind of the big show where everyone gathers to show stuff off. Um, in recent years, big companies have ended up just kind of doing their own thing, like BlizzCon, like Nintendo Directs, and I think Sony had something a few days ago, although it's so close to E3 that we can just kind of lump it in. But yeah, it's coming up. It's starting June 12th and goes through June 15th. The astute among you will notice that June 15th is our next Nerd Glasses podcast day. So there might be breaking news coming out of it on the last day. There usually isn't. That we'll be bringing to you. But yeah, next Tuesday we're going to have a lot of news to bring, but I think we'll give you a little bit of a preview of what we're looking at with E3 this year, as well as some of our own predictions. Dave, what's E3 look like this year? What form is it taking?
So
What are some
it's
of the
going to
things?
be a lot like last year, where there isn't a convention hall rented out. There will not be Q&A panels where people are able to badger stars of various heights and rankings. And those poor developers will not be able to leave their basement to come to make some short trip through the light to then go sit in a dark convention hall and answer questions to then get shuffled back to their other job. Stay in those chairs, you brave, brave keyboard little warriors.
For 1 hour, you get to turn on a webcam and talk to it, but otherwise, keep coding away, folks.
But it looks like a lot of the usual crowd that's with E3. So Bandai Namco, Square Enix, Capcom, and then other Ubisoft, Gearbox. But it looks like
Generally, the big names that like Ubisoft actually surprises me because I kind of figure like the big three hardware manufacturers of Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony
Mhm.
do make showings at E3, but it's not where they make their biggest announcements.
Yeah.
I think the same with like EA and Activision. They'll show up because it's the big ball, and you'd be remiss not to make an appearance at the ball, my dear. But Ubisoft is like, okay, that'll be cool.
um, thought process. Where was I?
I'm sorry.
Anyway, there's another couple interesting announcements and showings. Xbox and Bethesda are going to be showing off some of the games coming to your systems.
Ooh.
Um,
Seeing the fruits of that merger.
Looking greatly forward to this Sunday at 2 o'clock when Warner Brother Games gets more into Back for Blood. Almost positive that's the game. No, it's not the game I was thinking it was. Or was it? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Back for Blood. That I think
The spiritual. Yep. So
Yep.
yes, I'm looking greatly forward to seeing more about Back for Blood.
a
I'm
spiritual successor to the original Left 4 Dead, same developers, kind of thing.
Yeah, looking greatly forward to seeing more about that game, especially because it was supposed to be coming out soon, and now was pushed a couple of months. But if it makes the game good, so it is now openly only advertisement. Exactly. Interestingly enough, on that Tuesday, Nintendo has a block from 9 a.m. to 2 o'clock.
Oh wow.
Or excuse me, there is nothing going on after the Nintendo block until 2 o'clock. So if they do anything, Nintendo is doing a direct through E3.
Ooh, okay.
And they're also doing a Nintendo Treehouse Live, which, knowing Nintendo, it's a gathering of either developers, personalities, or just, hey, here's some of the games we talked about at the Direct, and now we're going to have some people reacting to it.
Yeah.
Because nothing helps studios to get direct feedback than actually letting people touch the software that they're making and play with the software peripherals and all that.
The one that caught my attention, and you kind of said it, and I was like, wait, what? Sandwiched between Verizon and Take-Two Interactive, Monday morning at 9:45 a.m. is Intellivision. I've mentioned it before, I think right here, but Intellivision was the first console I ever had. It was a competitor to the Atari 2600, more or less. And that's where my very early gaming nostalgia comes from, that and a Commodore 64. And they have space at E3. And I was like, okay, this seems very interesting. Let me look into this. What has Intellivision actually got going on? Because the last thing that I had ever seen was Intellivision Live's compilations on Xbox or whatever.
Mhm.
And they have a new console that is coming out in October called the Intellivision Amico, a unique video game system that's redefining entertainment with family and friends. Um, and they have a button that says CR Games, and I was like, yes, please show me these pre-release versions of games. And I was a little underwhelmed. Some of it is like cool graphical updates of classic Intellivision games like Night Stalker. Some of it, like it all looks very arcadey. Like I would need to keep feeding in quarters to keep playing the game. And it didn't look like anything that like it didn't look triple A. It looked like a whole bunch of what would in this day and age be shovelware. Um, but I'm like, you know what? It all, it's adding multiplayer to this kind of thing. The style of it looks really cool. I might be in. Like, if it's $200, sure. If it's $100 plus a subscription for the games, fine. I look and they have pre-orders up for 300. I was like, that's a no for me, dog. But my mind could be changed at E3. Hopefully, they'll be announcing, hey, our funky arse controller is somehow going to get Call of Duty running on it. I doubt it, but I don't know. I'm interested in seeing what that'll be on Monday morning, aka I'll be watching it Monday night. I will link to the Intellivision site because it was that weird to watch, but that's oddly enough what interested me. But no matter what it is, we will make sure to bring you our impressions from it. Going into the weekend, Dave, do you have any predictions of like maybe an announcement or the tone of it, anything like that?
I'm going to be looking into and listening very intently to the Xbox and Bethesda games showcase,
Okay.
especially to see and hear what what that's going to look like, what they're ready to tell people about, being that this is now officially bought and purchased and theirs. Um, I want to know what it is they're going to be doing, and especially if I, as a PS5 owner, am going to be getting any Bethesda games for the next console generation or the future.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That might be a little hard to find out because remember that stuff like, oh yeah, this Tomb Raider reboot is going to be on PS3, and then they had to like be badgered for a while afterwards before they were like, and also on other consoles. So it'll probably
well, yeah,
be all like coming to Xbox, and
exactly. Well,
then
that's why I'm going to be listening and looking to it to see if
yeah.
they say only on Xbox, because
Oh yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
do these
yeah.
previews and they talk about these things, and they definitely have to address the elephant in the room of Xbox now owns Bethesda. Are those games going to be going forward and all these things? And E3 is the stage to get that message out in mass. And to many different media outlets and to get people's attention one way or the other.
It's going to be an
Um,
interesting line to walk because the Bethesda part is going to want to say as much as possible this is going to be for every console, but the Xbox side of that is going to want to be like, it's on Xbox, so you should get an Xbox. Don't pay attention if it's on other stuff. It's on Xbox. This is for a limited time exclusively on Xbox.
mhm.
So that's going to be like, left brain, right brain fighting each other, and it'll be interesting to see which side kind of
Yeah. Um,
triumphs.
I know I'm also interested to see if really interested to see the Back for Blood. It's only going to be a half hour, which means they're probably just showing a trailer and hyping people up and hey, the game is coming and thank you for your patience and all that stuff, because they can take my money now, but I want the game.
Maybe 5 minutes of gameplay. We'll see.
And then on Tuesday, I'll also be interested to see if Bandai Namco, if they announce what they're announcing for with less than an hour worth of stage time. Um,
Yeah. Um,
Anti-timed exclusives will mean other platforms will get the final fixed versions. Elden Ring as an example. True, true.
I think something that we're going to see, like we mentioned earlier in the program, how like AAA games keep getting pushed back.
Mm,
I don't think we're going to see a lot of big AAA announcements. I think that teams that are working on those big games are still working on the games that were announced last year and are just trying to get those out. Because there haven't been a lot of huge AAA releases in the past year. Um, so I think there will be a couple, and I think that they will be show stealing. But what excites me more is that in this E3, that again, possibly by my prediction, won't have as many big AAA announcements. I think that there will be more of the spotlight to go around for smaller games, whether they're indie games or just like the games that would be $39.99. So according to Dan, not real games, but they'll get some spotlight. That's what I'm hoping. So we'll see.
um, Something I will say is it's going to be on a lot of different platforms and things like that. But three of the voices, they announced some of the presenters. And if you know the names, they will catch your attention just because it is E3. It is a very big stage for
Hmm.
a lot of people, and you want to make sure that the glue in between the studio's sets and the tone is set very well.
You want
Um,
them to segue better than we do.
so they've hired like Greg Miller, um, uh, Jackie Jing. You may know her. She's been on IGN and a lot Funimation,
Okay.
a lot of other things. And the person I'm most excited to see return to my screen, Alex Golden Boy Mendez. He was one of the presenters on the Overwatch League. I greatly enjoyed his work, the style that he presents things. And then he left the Overwatch League to go do other pursuits. Totally good. And then popped up in AEW, a wrestling company, and did a couple pay-per-views with them and spots like that. And so
Okay.
I'll be excited to see how this trio of presenters who have very similar comedic styles and good timing and definitely have worked with a diverse cast of co-hosts and things like that. I'm excited to see how that goes, being that the E3 presenters are people in the gaming industry and the gaming as a whole, as opposed to, you know, a celebrity who is friends with the people in the studios and knows one studio or one particular facet of or things like that. Or like when Major Nelson from Microsoft presents, very articulate, very interesting, very fun. Love hearing the guy talk. But when he's presenting something outside of Microsoft, you can see where he's then cue carding it, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, maybe you have him present with somebody else, like.
Like all the times that you see like a celebrity guest on stage at a conference and they're just kind of like, I'm here. Look, I'm Keanu Reeves. You're breathtaking, and everything else was forgettable. It'll be cool to see people that are that wrapped up in the culture and the knowledge of it to kind of be able to work through, like you said, to be that connective glue in between the various presentations. How can people watch E3 this year?
Well, if I dropped a link to the E3 Expo schedule, but if you scroll around on it, they do have event details, distribution services, and then you can kind of click around and figure out where those links are. But
Oh, that is a lot.
Twitch, YouTube, IGN. They'll be doing things for Facebook Gaming, TikTok, Twitter, Reddit. They'll be using a lot of these things, smaller distribution services such as Blibble, Africa, Live. If you're outside of the US, a lot of those you've heard of these, but you may not have. Inside of GameSpot, all these other companies and things will be doing
That one was in acrylic, so I couldn't
E3
read it,
parts
but
and things like that. So it's out there, and it will be very big. Something else interesting that they advertised here on the website, um, is they're getting a lot of talent appearances,
ooh,
and some of the voices include folks like Aaron Hansen from Game Grumps has announced that he's going to be there. Um, there's going to be uh, Power Surge from the WNBA. If you know the name, you do. If you don't,
okay.
Google it. Um, and then a lot of other people. They're also going to be putting on a roundtable discussion featuring editors in chiefs from game industries, GameSpot, IGN, PC Gamer, and Polygon. Um, I'm also looking forward to. They're going to be having a gaming development cast discussion based around the series Mythic Quest. If you watched the end of my St. Jude's Play Live, we talked about that TV show from Apple TV exclusive starring Rob McElhaney from Always Sunny in Philadelphia
Okay.
about a game studio, things like that.
Oh, I remember seeing the trailers for that. Yeah, okay.
And then they are going to be having a panel discussion about women video game voice acting, and it features a bevy of folks from most popular gaming, Mass Effect, Overwatch, Apex. A lot of folks
Yeah, I
from
was going to say, if
Sims,
Jennifer Hale's not on there, I
League
riot.
of Legends, and then some other smaller gaming groups and things like that. That'll be a very interesting panel that I'll definitely have a look to if I don't catch it live. And you can check it out with a bunch of folks that are going to be co-streaming it along with a lot of staffers and streamers themselves. But E3 2021, I look forward to talking about it next week and doing all this stuff. It's going to be really interesting to see how, people were saying for a while, like, oh, E3's dying and all these other things are dying, and this, that, and the other. But now that the world shut down for a year, conventions like this and stuff like that kind of got, in a way, a reset because a lot of these companies now don't want to put them on themselves, don't have the resources to, don't have the ability to, the connections to buildings, licensing, things like that. They can't guarantee the safety measures put into place as a speculative thing, but there's a reason that people are returning to E3, whereas in previous years they were doing their own separate events.
Remember when TwitchCon or GlitchCon, and like we talked about how, like, yes, in some ways it was successful, in some ways it was hilariously bad. It's entirely possible that a lot of these companies don't want to risk putting on something hilariously bad that is digital only.
Yes.
And they're going all in on the infrastructure that E3 is putting forward, being on Facebook Gaming, being on Twitch, being on YouTube, being on a bunch of international platforms, making sure that it gets out there. And again, it is that sense of networking, a sense of community that is very, to say, but that is something that is important and has been found to be important this last year. If there's one thing that Epic versus Apple is showing us, it's that the industry is very tightly knit, very connected, and whether it's because of that or not, the company knows how connected it is to itself. The industry knows how connected it is to itself. My apologies. And it is really great seeing them come together like this. And I hope that when we go back to in-person events, that E3 does this carefully and continues to maintain its relevancy. Because there were some years where it felt a little like it slipped up and wasn't as relevant as a big gaming news and announcement thing, and was more just, oh yeah, this is where the journalists go to schmooze for a while. So we'll
Want
see.
an overpriced Philly cheesesteak? E3.
Dave, we're gonna get passes for the first in-person E3, right? And we'll cover that for Insane Games.
I would be glad to. As an audition, I work 7 days a week and I do a lot of the stuff, so I have zero issue just bombing it for a couple of days and not sleeping and just perpetually filming. Can do it, have done it, will do it again. Could be for you for E3 if we get some passes.
Yep.
Don't even have to get me a hotel room. Not going to matter. Not going to leave.
Obviously, it's not going to be this year. You got a whole year to think about it, at least. So that is E3, and we'll talk about some of the things that caught our attention, and make sure that you let us know what caught your attention as well. You can join the Insane Games TV Discord. It's in the About section right below the video. Join up. Let us know in the Nerd Glasses channels what caught your attention, what announcements you really enjoyed, what moments, because what would E3 be without a bunch of goof moments, whether they're engineered or not? Let us know what made E3 special for you, whether it's announcements or whatever, in the Insane Games TV Discord. We love to hear from you there. Yeah, so make sure that you join up, and obviously make sure that you're following here, programming 7 days a week. So about that time, Chap?
It does look like, unless here, let me click the E3 news and see if they posted anything in the last 60 seconds. They have not.
Okay.
And so that's all the E3 coverage we have for now.
E3 starts on Friday or Saturday?
Saturday.
E3 starts on Saturday officially, though again, some of the companies do have announcements coming out before then with their own conferences. And no matter where it drops, we'll make sure that we're covering it for you when we meet back here on Tuesday with notebooks full of stuff. In fact, I'm going to take this home instead of trying to write it all out when I get here an hour before showtime. So I'll write stuff down as it happens.
Make sure, folks, to keep it tuned in here to Insane Games TV 7 days a week, 11 different streamers, and so much diverse content. You couldn't barely help but hit that follow button. You're welcome.
Immediately after the Nerd Glasses podcast tonight, it is going to be The Citadel, which is my solo stream where we play games that are somewhere between great and awful. This week's game is The Dwarves. I haven't played it in a month and a half, and I have no idea where we are, so come stumble through it with me after the show. We go offline. Takes about 5 minutes to get everything moved over to the set, a 10-minute countdown, and I'll see you right there on the Citadel to end this Tuesday night at Insane Games TV. In the meantime, folks, I've been Boater.
I've been Dave Mann.
And this has been the Nerd Glasses Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next week. Bye, everybody.